I still got 129 on my computer, so we'll give it a few more minutes for others to join. Then how many do we need for quorum? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 7-ish. I'm sorry, you're on mute.
So it's your 7 committees, Chair, right?
Yeah.
And then plus the 3 leadership roles, so it's 9, so half of that.
You're 5.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I've got 1:30. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's executive committee meeting. We have a full agenda. So I'd like to call our meeting to order at 1:30 p.m. My name is Ken Louie, WDC Chair, and I would like to publicly recognize our Vice Chair as well, Carrie Miyashiro. This is a public meeting under the open meeting law. The committee members and public guests are viewing in Zoom, and we have staff at the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, office room 317, case members and guests wish to meet at an on-site location. To start the meeting and to document in the minutes, I'll be doing a roll call of our members, after which I would like our guests to introduce themselves with their name and organization. Please be mindful that the chat box is disabled. Okay, starting with our Vice Chair, Carrie Miyashiro. You could unmute. I thought I saw Carrie there.
Here.
What happened? All right, there he is.
Here.
Thank you, Carrie. Donovan De La Cruz. I don't think he will be attending.
Yeah, he's not able to, but his staff is actually monitoring.
Okay, we'll get to them shortly here. Keith DeMello. See him? Is it? Thank you, Keith. Diane Dizon. I think I saw her.
Dion, I'm here.
Dion. Sorry, Dion. Those eyes always puzzle me. Tui Scanlon.
Present. Hill.
Thank you, Tui. Carla Kurakawa. I saw her name flash up there. Carla, you there?
I'm sorry. I keep getting kicked from Zoom out 3 times and it so
She's here, Chair.
Okay, a little broken up, but she's there. Kelly Oka, I saw his face.
Here.
Thank you, Kelly. Sean Knox.
Present. Hello.
Thank you, Sean. Trong Malone.
present.
Cheryl Cross. Saw her.
Aloha, Cheryl's here.
Thank you. Lorna Wu. Did not see her. Okay. And Derek Kanehira, which I understand also may not be present.
Traveling, yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other members? I see David Rodriguez. If you could please introduce yourselves and the organization.
Hello, Chair. David Rodriguez with the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations Director's Office.
Thank you, David, for joining. Anyone else?
We have Mary Carr.
Hi.
You'll be
Good
speaking.
afternoon, Chair. Mara Carpilliton Freitas with the Workforce Development Division.
Thank you, Maricar. Good to see your smiling face. Okay.
And we have 2 guests.
Okay. Yes, I see 2 guests. They're both on mute at the moment, so maybe if you could identify yourselves. Or not, as the case may be. Okay, well, moving on. The first item on the agenda is a request from our sister state board from Rhode Island. It is to join their cause of supporting the proposal to increase the small state minimum allocation rate. This is part of the bill now making its way in Congress to reauthorize the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Before we participate in the ways that they're asking us to do, we need an official board action on this matter. So at the end of this, we need to make a recommendation to the full board, whether we want to jump on the bandwagon, so to speak, and support them in this initiative, or turn it over to our executive director, who has been in touch with Rhode Island and other small states. So go ahead, Vanette.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you, Chair. So if you take a look at on your packets, this is on page 11, or sorry, 12, starting with 12.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna take a moment to have you flip to that page. So Hawaii is one of several, I think at least 10 states that may be impacted by this request. As you know, the WIOA is in the process of being reauthorized by Congress. There are still some differences between the Senate version and the House version. So there's really, at the last National Governors Association meeting, there's still no uncertainty as to when this would move forward. Particularly, it would depend on the composition of the Senate and the House. So, but in the meantime, though, Rhode Island, their U.S. representative asked the Congressional Research Office to do a study, and in that study, it fleshed out the states that will benefit from this. So if I can ask you to please take a look on page 16. Page 16 on your handout on your packet. So if you take a look, Hawaii actually has the most. If we change that minimum allocation, Hawaii stands to benefit the most at 2.7 million. If they change that formula, there would be, I guess, negligible impact on some of the other smaller states. The red signifies those, but I think as far as Hawaii, this would add 2.7 million into the allocated amount that we normally get, which has averaged between 8 to 10 million. So we are in the process of reaching out, or actually huddling with Rhode Island and the other states, pertinent states. We were supposed to do it this week, but it seems like everybody's a little bit distracted by the national things that are going on nationally. So Chair, I'm a little, I guess, conflicted about saying let's go all out until such time that I really can connect with the other executive directors and have a semblance of understanding about the full picture. It looks from first glance that there's no downside, but I think it would be important for me to connect with the other executive directors and really understand for myself. And right now, all I have is information that is contained in their letter. So I'd like to actually propose, Chair, that we defer this until the February meeting. And at that time, hopefully we will have some additional information. There's no sense of urgency on this one. It's not like, the Congress is about to vote on this. I think this is still a long play, and there would be some ample opportunity by February to be able to weigh in.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. Actually, I was at least, yes, go ahead for comments.
Mayor Carr. I just have a question. That 2.8 Bennett is for Wagner Pizer, right?
Yes. Actually, there is I think on page hang on a second.
The title
There's a certain, yes. Yeah,
Two
there's
point-
a formula that they used, and in the process, trying to see where that is. So that is the total amount. Yeah, Wagner Pizer, you're right. Marikar?
So the total for Title I would be about 2.2, 2.3, not 2.
So, oh, I see what you mean. No, I thought that there was, there's another one that I saw that actually, okay, on page
16 of the packet.
13. At the top of page 13.
Right.
So
the
that
Wagner
is correct.
is-
So it's more than, yeah, you're right. It's 2.7 for Wagner Pizer, 324 for youth, 1.8 for dislocated workers, and adult workers is 100,000. So it's a significant, for of all the states, who will stand to benefit the most. Now, we, again, not, there's still some nuances that I'm not certain of, so I'm not, comfortable in requesting or asking the board to push forward until such time that we really understand the total picture. Although at first glance, it looks like a very good proposal and worthy to support, of our support.
Okay, so you report back on the next committee
Yes.
meeting, whether or not to bring it to the full board. then, so
Correct,
we don't-
correct.
Okay,
And I'll share the same insight for the full board meeting. At least at the end of the day, I think it's important for this committee as well as the full board to be aware of these efforts and these initiatives. And then over the period of time, we will provide some updates.
okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, moving on here. Let's see. There are a number of other items in the agenda where the executive committee needs to weigh in. And so as a reminder, everyone, that per our bylaws, section 6.4, it states that the executive committee reviews and makes recommendations in all personnel matters, council governance and compliance matters, standing committee matters, and other matters as directed by the council. So I'd like to entertain a motion.
No, this is the one. Yeah, this is,
the
we're
one we can go ahead
deferring
and
this.
defer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you. Moving on then. Next agenda item is the presentation of the 2024 negotiate levels for each of the local areas. And for this, we have Maricar Peloton Freitas, Administrator of the Workforce Development Division, who explained the protocols for this requirement. And please note that the materials for this portion of the presentation is on your packets, starting on pages 52 through page 60. So I'll turn it over to you, Maricar.
Okay, Chair, if that's okay, can I share my
Certainly.
screen? So just to give a background, I think to simplify the measures, we need to understand the exit. So I wanted to share this illustration of the exit quarter. This is old in 2019. So when a participant's first date of service is in May, and they no longer need any more services, so their exit date is 8/18, then they become part of the measures. So the second quarter and fourth quarter is illustrated here. So the person can exit anytime between July to September. They'll still be counted on the second quarter and fourth quarter. So we have the performance negotiation, the actual levels of performance in PY 2023 that was really used as a basis to negotiate with U.S. Department of Labor. So please note that we are in the red for the measurable skills gain. We are continuously Bennett, the executive director, have been meeting with the local areas as well as having technical assistance to help improve this measurable skills gain. So we're hopeful with the technical assistance that we're having, each local area this red will turn into a more positive picture for the state of Hawaii. So I also have here what measurable skills gains is for the people in attendance here. So it's really the program participants who are in education or training that leads to a recognized post-secondary credential or employment. So I'll share this with Bennett, and she can share it with all of you after. So we negotiated with U.S. Department of Labor, and these are the measures that the state entered into the unified plan. So we put the draft, it's blank when the unified plan is submitted. Once the negotiation is accepted by U.S. Department of Labor, then it becomes part of the state's performance measures for the next, from July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2028. So this is all reflected as part of the unified plan. So the adult program, these are the state performance levels for 24 and 25. Each local area, we then negotiated with each local area, and they agreed to these measures. So the employment rate for all the participants that will be exited, they agreed that 72.5 for the state of Hawaii will enter, will have employment second quarter after exit, and 74% fourth quarter after exit. And the median earnings, because the state, some counties are higher than others, the state is 7,500. And we're hopeful the credential rate will be higher than that, but we didn't want to be so aggressive and negotiate at the 60th percentile. So the dislocated worker program, these are the measures. So measurable skills gain, we know that there's room for improvement, but because we're in the red, we did negotiate low on those measures, and thankfully, U.S. Department of Labor was accepting of that 50.5 credential attainment and measurable skills gains. The youth, these are the youth programs. So it's only those individuals that exit the program when they're no longer needing services, then they become part of these measures. So we're hopeful with the increase in minimum wage, the youth should not have any problem meeting that 5,000 median earnings second quarter after exit. I'm also, I can pause if there's any questions on these measures.
Are there any questions for Maricar on the materials you just presented?
Chair, just a note that the letters to the various local areas from Maricar is actually found in your packet from page 38 to page 46. So the numbers that you mentioned are all in that individual letters to the local areas.
Okay, got it. I see that. Okay. Thank you, Maricar. You'll also be reporting on the next item, which is the update on the Lahaina disaster relief funds. Go ahead.
Okay, so for the National Dislocated Worker Grant, how those funds are awarded are really, they give the states that experience any kind of disaster 50%. And then you can always go back in to request for more funding. So the period of performance for those grants are from August 25th through September 30th. We have to applaud U.S. Department of Labor for putting this at the forefront. We recently attended the National Governors Association meeting at Connecticut with Bennett, and most states have had, I guess, a lag in their approval process. So this 2-week period for them to approve our grant was really a best practice, I guess, for the state. So right now, the expenditures through September 30th is $3,600,000. So let's not panic about that, because if the service providers are spending $800,000 a month, we anticipate that we will exceed that 10 million and may require requesting for additional funding to serve those 424 enrolled in the program. So they are temporarily employed for 1 year. And when we submitted this grant, it was to serve 350. As you can see, the service provider have exceeded the enrollment for this grant and continuously serving more and enrolling more participants. So we'll keep you apprised if we should request for additional funding to carry us through September 30, 2024. Or 25, sorry, that's it should be. Yeah.
So to clarify, America, we need to expend the funds by September of next year. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct, because it's supposed to address a disaster. So it's not a formula base. So if you know, there's wildfires in California too. So they go in to ask for a grant. And so the period of performance for these grants are normally 2 years to help with the cleanup and to help with humanitarian efforts that's needed to bring that community back.
Okay.
So Chair, if I may add some additional insight. So at the National Governors Association, there actually was a topic of discussion that probably more than likely will appear in the agenda for the next convening, because I think people are struggling how to manage the grants, how to spend it down, what are the best practices for setting it up appropriately. And Marika, do you mind sharing a little bit? If it's only because it's going to show up in the fiscal reports how we change the total. Are you going into that? Okay.
Oh yes, correct. Like I said, when the notice of award comes in, so we ask for 20 million. So the federal government will only give the states half of the amount that's asked for. And then based on that 10 million, if you need more, then you go back and ask for more up to the ceiling amount of what we asked for initially. So because the disasters are continuously happening around the nation, they want to be able to move the funds from state to state. So as we require, as we get closer to the September 30, 2025 period, and we assess that expenditure rate, if it's increased or higher, then we can always go ask for additional funds. And National Dislocated Worker Grants. So when a disaster happened, hopefully this will be the last for Hawaii for a while. When any disaster happened, the state can go ask for a grant because these funds come from the dislocated worker Congress allotted to U.S. Department of Labor. So each state can go ask for it. What happens is, because the disaster happens and you're waiting for this money, you have to submit an application. So funds may not be available to do the cleanup. So by the time the grants are awarded, because of the lag, I think they're slowly trying to address it. There's a lag, and so you initially submit an application for blank amount, but because of the lag time to get the money, and the people may have other funding sources to help with the cleanup, then it's difficult for states to find people to do the cleanup, because it's supposed to be immediate so that the road can be cleaned up and people can use the roads to go back and forth. So that's what these disaster grants are intended for. It's not a formula base, and it's really to provide temporary employment for those that may have been impacted by the disaster and lost their job through no fault of their own.
Got it. Thank you, Maricar, for that explanation. Any other questions or comments for Maricar? Okay, up next, we'll hear fiscal reports, which will be presented by our Executive Director, Bennett Izlucha. And this information starts on page 62 of the packet.
Aloha, everyone. So actually, Chair, there's been a change because when I guess I was relying on another version of the packet. So it's page 48 up to page 50. 56.
Yes, I see it.
Okay. So stop. I'm gonna have Maricar stop sharing. Who's is that? Somebody's, is that yours, Maricar? So we go back to. Oops. Maricar, if you, is that you?
Maybe I'll join and share. I'll join. I'll hang up and then join again. So.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
You can't seem to disengage. Okay, no worries. Okay, perfect. Okay, so financial reports. Your first handout, and maybe I can pull it up. I'm not sure if I can. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's your page 49. So
Yeah.
this is a snapshot of where we're at for RIOA funds as of August 31st, 2024. Remember now the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024. However, there's still some lag time by the time even though the monies were expended, that the invoicing may still not be, received. And so by August 31, majority of those invoices have been received. So this is as close to a true picture as one could possibly get. So the PY 2022, if you recall, they have 2 years, the local boards have 2 years to spend the monies, and then whatever extra or unspent or unexpended funds will be returned to the state. It's important to understand that concept because there's another item in the agenda where we're going to talk about unexpended funds. So for the year BY 2022, these were the allocations. Remember now, 15% of the total allocation goes to program as well as administrative, but the rest 85% gets allocated or distributed to the local areas. So out of the 9.7 million in PY22 that they were allocated, the local areas spent 5.8 million. So this is a little bit more than what was reported during the last committee meeting. But like I said, it's born out of the fact that by now invoices have been received, whereas before there were still some pending some items. So the balance between the allocated and the expenditure is 3.9 million, almost 4 million. So when you look at the second column, you have how it's distributed from WIOA adult, youth, dislocated workers. And then so there is that amount that we were talking about, hang on, 3.8. You minus 3.8 from the, 3.9, sorry. And so far you, sorry, hang on a second. So there's 1.9 that has been encumbered, meaning these are the ones that have already been spent. I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry. Out of the 3.9 million, so far there's 319,000 that are still outstanding that still needs to be spent, but we've already encumbered 1.9 for projects that's already been spoken for, and that's for the summer youth program and another one for the DVR, vocational rehab. So the unexpended funds, again, the ones that really would be recaptured or given to the state for the state to decide how to reallocate it, is 1.5 million. Okay, so remember that amount, because that's going to actually show up later on when we talk about the reallocation of those unexpended funds, when we talk about the items that will be grants that will be given to partners or agencies. Okay, so that's for PY 2022. Now let's look at PY 2023. And this just started. So it started July 1, 2024. So far, the allocation for the state is 8.6 million. So far, as of the first quarter, the local areas have spent 791,000. So far, they have a balance of 7.8 million. Mind you, we are monitoring this. We meet on a regular basis to take a look at where they're at as far as trends. And for good measure, I think it's important to note that it really is incumbent for them to be able to spend that money. In fact, in other states, the rule of thumb that they've abided by is that 80% of the funds for that particular program year needs to be spent on the first year. We're not there yet, obviously, but I think there's great intentions from the part of the executive directors to be on target on some of these trends. Okay, so this is the one on the Lahaina fires that we were talking about. This report came from the fiscal office, from the ASO, Administrative Services Office. And here we have that initially, I think they had 20 million, now it's modified from 15 to 10 million. And so there is a process that they're going to abide by, wherein Maui Economic Opportunity will be modifying, along with WDD, modifying the contract to reflect the reduced allocation. Okay, so this is the 100,000 and the 50,000 that you see here is actually reflected here when we talk about the funds that have been planned encumbrances. And they are going to be used for fiscal training, as well as training for local areas on other matters. So any questions on this? I know I gave you a lot of information, but this is our pulse check on our financial picture. Any questions? Okay, so on your page 450, 50 and 51. Just wanted to provide you some snapshot of, where each of the islands are at for PY 2022, how they spent their adult program funding. But I do want to particularly address and have you take a look at the number of participants. So the number of participants is directly correlated to how much they're spending, right? Because if they have enough participants, then they're able, and for which it was intended, then there shouldn't be a lot of extra. But the participants are still on the low end. We again are putting a lot of effort into this, and there will hopefully be some improvements to these numbers. But I wanted to have you folks have a baseline of understanding, have a baseline of what it is at right now for PY 2022. So if you take a look at Hawaii total, this is the Big Island. They had 199 participants. For Honolulu, it was 671. For Kauai, 21, and Maui total is at 114. So we serve about 1,000 customers this PY 2022. It should be more. Okay, so let's move on to the performance measures. So Maricar kind of talked about, what the picture looks like, what the negotiated levels are like for PY 2024. So this is PY 2023 last year. So if you see a green shaded area, that means we're doing good. We're meeting targets or exceeding targets. If you see a red, that means there's room for improvement. And if you take a look at many of these snapshots, the picture, it will show that measurable skill gain is something, and I think Maricar alluded to it earlier, is something that needs to be improved. There is a school of thought that says that when you have the credential rate, the measurable skill gain should not be far behind. They should be very similar. But in the case of this, where you have the credential rate at 63 and the measurable skill gain at 46%, that means there must be a input error or input, a data input challenge that needs to be met. Meaning they're not, whoever is putting down the statistic is not as diligent. So we need to actually do some additional technical assistance on this. It's been about a year since we last circled with them, with the folks that are boots on the ground. So we're going to try to remedy this, and hopefully we can see a difference in the efforts that we're putting forth. So again,
What you're saying, I'm sorry, but that's what
Go
you're saying is
ahead,
maybe the measurable skill gain
yes,
percentages could go up
right,
and match closer to the credential rate.
correct.
Oh.
It should be closer. Maricar, do you want to share some more? Anything,
No,
any additional insight? Okay,
You covered it. Thank you. So
okay,
we will address it with the local areas, because what we see is if you're not entering the data, then you're not getting credit for it. So it could be, like Bernard said, a data entry that they just need to be more diligent in entering that information in the system so that it's captured correctly.
So we all are struggling though with youth. And when you see the other islands, you would notice that trend. So as an example, for the total, out of the total number of participants, 68%, right? Only 60 was the goal, and only 66% of those universe of youth that are in the program were able to be gainfully employed. Okay, so let's look at Big Island. Again, I'm gonna very quickly because I'm spending a lot of time on this. Take a look at their youth participants. Again, I wanna just point out that many of these are in red for the islands. But I think on the adult as well as the dislocated, most of the islands are doing well, except I think Kauai. So if you take a look at Kauai, it's quite clear that um, they are an island that may need some additional assistance. So their numbers are all in red because they're not meeting the goals. Maui, their credential rate and the measurable skills gain, again, there may be some, I don't know what happened to the youth here. For some reason, it got kind of cut off. Okay, so Oahu, let me just share Oahu's numbers. So most of I think they're carrying a bulk of the numbers for us with the totals. So their dislocated workers, there's some room for improvement. But again, on the youth, that is really where a lot of focus, we're going to be doing a lot of focus on that, trying to come up with initiatives that hopefully will improve, will increase the number of participants. And then of course, the data entry so that hopefully we're eliminating that particular challenge and the numbers will then reflect a more accurate picture.
Okay,
Did I
thank
bore
you.
all of you?
A lot of numbers. Any questions, comments for?
I'm happy to sit down with anyone to understand more. It took me a little longer to understand exactly what it's trying to measure, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think it does have paint an accurate picture of what is out there, albeit there's some other ways that we can measure success.
I had a quick
Yes, go ahead,
question, but I
Dewey.
think Tui, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Tui.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, do we have legacy tracking for these folks that we've helped out in previous program years? That or as they transition from one group to the next? Like once the youth have transitioned from the age range that in that category and move on into the adult age range category, do they continue to use any of the funds or any of the program or services? If they do, how likely are they to succeed or go further than others that are like first time participants in the program? If they have left the program and have gone on to find success elsewhere, is there any kind of legacy tracking that can show like the long-term effects of these programs and services?
I'm gonna defer to Mari Clark because that's I just started in July, so I'm gonna defer to WDD if they've done that tracking in the past.
Yeah, 2 weeks. So that's what we call, we're getting in the weeds, but that's what we call duly enrolled. So if they are, as long as they are an active participant, they would not be part of these measures. It's only when they are no longer receiving any type of services. So there's soft exits and there's hard exits. So soft exits could be like those, maybe they got incarcerated, they would be removed from the numbers. So that's why it's so crucial for case managers at each of the local areas to keep a tally of their cases, because say if I'm serving you and then you don't have any activity under your name for 90 days, then the system would exit you. Now you become part of that numerator, and then if you don't have any, even a penny or a dime to your Social Security, then it's counted as 0 on your second quarter and fourth quarter after exit. So it's only if the participant is exited. So if they're being served under the different titles and their name is still actively having services, then it wouldn't be part of that number that you're seeing.
Got it, got it. And then is there any recidivism isn't the word, is there any tracking of re-entry of folks who have utilized the services and then gone out into the workforce and then had to come back to reuse the services? Is there any are there any metrics on that?
They would become active again. So once they exit and they come back, then a new case file would be opened up for them, and then they would continuously be served. And only when they exit, then they become part of that. The negative thing, there's a downfall to these measurements, because if I paid for someone to go to like CDL training, it's not counting employment in the CDL training. It's your Social Security, whether or not you have $1 to your name when we do that wage run. If there's $1 to your name on that second quarter that I showed you, then it would be part of that success for the state. But if it's 0 under your Social Security number, then of course, that's where you see that 71% and all those percentages that you see on your screen.
Okay,
If that
I can see how that would be difficult to track from like going out and then coming back in, especially if they're moving in between different sectors and moving in and out of different buckets.
You're welcome.
Joey, Kelly, do you have a question?
Just quick, I think it's for Mary Carr too. Just real high level, Mary Carr. How do we track the measurable skill gain metric?
It's a measurable skill gain. So let me see if I can pull up that T-goal. So if a youth has let's say you came into the system and you didn't have a diploma. So now you acquired a diploma, then that's a gain. If you had an increase in maybe you're making $10 before and now, or 14, and then you got a pay raise $14.25, that's a gain. So that's why I say it could be a data entry issue versus a failure for the state on these measures. So we have to just do more coaching to the case managers so that they're taking credit for those skills gains by the youth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so the example of a diploma that would count towards the credential rate and the skills gain. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's why like Bennett said, those two numbers should not be so, that disparity between those two numbers should be closer in alignment than 30% and 60%. Because if you got a credential, then you should also get a measurable skills gain.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we're gonna go ahead, item 6 on the agenda. Here, a presentation from Bennett on recaptured funds.
Okay, Chair. So this one is, if you can please turn to the handout or the document that I sent and this afternoon, few minutes before the meeting. Do you remember this? This is called Allocation of PY 2022 Unexpended Funds. It's a second document other than the packet. So if I'm gonna just wait for everybody to make sure you have it open. It's a subject reallocation of PY 2022 unexpended funds. Do you recall that 1.5 million that I said, remember that figure? Okay, so in a really good attempt to make sure that it is distributed to in a way that is appropriate and also in alignment with WIOA's objectives, we are starting a new protocol this year. And the director, to his credit, has instructed the deputy director to be involved so that there was a an attempt to take a look at that and go through an application process. It's a very small effort because we really we're walking before we can run, and also because of the very short timeline. It's only for a year, right? From July 1 to June 30 that the monies have to be expended. So we were mindful of that, and so we wanted to be sure that maybe at this juncture it should be agency to agency, and not, if we go through a procurement process, it's going to be a longer process, a lengthier process. So for this year alone, what we're doing is, casting a more selective net to be able to elicit projects, initiatives that would be aligned with our WIOA objectives. So here, if you take a look on page, the first page, it actually talks about the background, the reallocation of recaptured funds, and then also how the evaluation team was convened. So there were 4 members of the team: Deputy Director William Kuntzman, Maricar, Lynn Araki-Regan, our ASO, and myself. And we reviewed project proposals. And then at the end of the day, we made sure that they're aligned with the State Unified Plan, as well as 20 CFR 683-120, which is really what are statewide activities that those unexpended funds can be spent on. So these are the recommendations, and I just want to make it clear that this committee will endorse this particular initiatives, and then, but it's really the full board that needs to vote on it. Okay, so let me just then go over the 3 projects that the evaluation team decided to fund. So first is Hawaii P20, and it's for $445,625, and it is for intermediaries. And the intermediaries is actually something that they've already started to do, and they've been very successful. So, but then they have a gap in their funding, and this was the amount. Actually, it was a little more, and then in the end, it came out to $445,000. The second recipient is UH Community College for $457,000. This is really to build capacity. It's very interesting to note that there's about 35,000 students that enroll at the community colleges. However, and as you know, most of the people who enroll at the community colleges, there's a certain profile that may be aligned with WIOA recipients. But out of the 35,000, when they looked at the records, only 53 individuals actually are WIOA recipients. So obviously there seems to be a very big opportunity here, as we see it, where we may be able to take a look, have our build some kind of a vetting system that may be that would be database, but also may be technology driven. We don't know at this juncture. So that's part of the funding. The other part of the funding is to fund a CDL class for 35 students. Each class normally has 4 students. As you know, it's a very specialized training. And the total amount for 35 students is actually $157,000. So that total amounts to $457,000. The third initiative is to the University of Hawaii, and it is expanding sector partnerships. And this is to fund particularly the transportation sector, which promises to be a very important sector, especially since we're an island. And we do need maritime and air support, aviation support, as well as, even with our land transportation. So this, the monies for this would be allocated for survey as well as for the convening of the sector partnership for 6 months. So the total for this is 1,2,625. So I have additional information if you are interested, but I think for the purpose of this committee endorsing it to the full board, I think you have all the information at your fingertips. Chair?
Okay, thank you, Bennett. Before we entertain a motion to recommend approval of these grants that Bennett just explained, does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve this and move this to the full board at our next meeting for approval. May I have a motion to?
Tui Scanlon, so move.
Thank you, Tui. Do I hear a second?
Second, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, let me call for a vote. Let's see, are there any opposed or wishing to abstain? Hearing not, and all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, the motion is noted as approved, unanimous approval. Okay, we'll present that to the next, to the full board at the next meeting. Okay, Bennett, you're up again.
I know, sorry. You're gonna be getting tired of me. Okay, so this is page 64. This is really an FYI, because I think it's important, you inspect what you expect, right? So the exercise for page 65, take a look at what the WDC was measured for in the prior years. And it really is a reflection. You saw this measurements in what I presented and in what Maricar presented. So when budget and finance, each of the whoever is receiving state funds, they need to come up with a measure by which they can assess their impact. Well, so when I asked ASO how WDC was measured in the past, this was what they gave us, and this is how we were measured. Well, I actually said that's not necessarily fair because we don't have complete control. And if I'm being measured, I want to be able to have full control of how I perform, right? I don't want other people to have control over how I'm performing, how I'm doing. So thankfully, ASO agreed. And so here is the 2 performance measures by which WDC, at least for now, is going to be measured for state budget purposes. Mind you, this is actually a very current issue. I'm talking with the other executive directors of other states, how they're being assessed as far as impact, as far as effectiveness. But for now, walk before we can run. This is how we're measured. One is the number of organized groups or organizations or community groups or agencies that WDC collaborates with on a given year. So in other words, how many organizations have we touched bases, have we created partnerships with? And the goal this year is 12. So that's 1 organization per year, okay? And then the second performance measure is number of workforce programs and activities organized. So we are supposed to conduct at least 2 events per quarter, totaling 8 events per year. So considering the fact that we still are, don't have personnel, we're in the process of getting them, but we're not there yet. I think this is a fair assessment for now of our measurements or our results. So any questions? Do you think that this is a fair way? Because this is your measurements as well. It's not just mine, it's the council's. Go ahead, Trang.
You said one partnership per month, correct, Annette? So
One organization per month, so
So
total of 12. But
okay,
you know, it could be one project, but we're actually collaborating with 3 organizations,
okay,
right? So
thank you.
as long as we have organizations that are out there that we collaborate, and I think we can also argue that it doesn't have to be exclusive. We can have tie-ins with the same organization, but 3 different projects.
And this is for organizations and events spanning our various
A year.
committees.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I would appreciate any feedback that you have, particularly those like Sean, who's very much involved in, you know, performance matrix in the HR area. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good plan. I like it. That's fair.
Yeah, I think it's measurable and at least sets a goal for the WDC. So hopefully we can exceed these goals and
That's the goal.
continue to.
That's the
Yeah.
plan. Under promise, over deliver.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, moving on to agenda item 8. We're going to hear from the Special Projects Committee. Been very busy. Keith DeMello is chair of that committee. So Keith, the floor is yours.
Sure. So as a bit of background, thank you, Chair. So during the last 2 special projects committees meetings, we met twice on September 16th and October 21st. We facilitated a discussion on the options for the WDC to establish a permitted interaction group pursuant to HRS 92-2.5. So, and just being in accordance with Sunshine Law. 2 options were discussed, and this was based on a fact sheet that OIP, the Office of Information Practices, provided us. And option 1 involved delegating authority to 2 members of the WDC to lead the legislative efforts on behalf of the council. And this option would concentrate responsibility on 2 members, so which would be an allowable permitted interaction, but and also would be a agile response that's often required during legislative session. The second option that was considered would allow all members of the WDC to participate in drafting and approving legislative testimony when deadlines don't allow for full meetings. However, the drawback was this option, even though it would provide broader input from all board members, it would be much less nimble in responding to fast-moving legislative timeframes and deadlines. So the key challenges were that typically a 48-hour public posting requirement for all drafts, and that would be very difficult under that scenario. So after that extensive discussion, the committee recommended forming a PIG based on the delegating of authority to 2 board members, and 2 individuals were nominated. One was myself and the other was Tui Scanlon. And we would operate under guidance that would be set forth by the full Workforce Development Council. And the committee in its discussions emphasized the need for the PIG to have both private sector and labor representation, which this would have that. So the request would be for a motion for the executive committee to provide guidance and its own recommendation to the full WDC to approve the formation of this PIG at the November meeting.
Here, it's on page 68.
Okay. Bennett, shall we take the motion now then, or to approve of the PIG? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to recommend approval Oh, first of all, any questions, any discussion on that for Keith? I think Keith, thank you. You did a good job, and thank you for the meetings for your special committee. I appreciate that in advance of the next legislative session. Okay, with that, as mentioned by Keith, I'd like to entertain a motion to recommend approval of the permitted interaction group. As Keith explained, we did go through seek OIP counsel on that, so I believe we're in good standing there. And as Keith indicated, we have 2 members of the board who will constitute the PIG, and that is himself, Keith DeMello, and Tui Scanlon. And by this vote, we're recommending this go to the full board for approval. So I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie. And do I hear a second?
Second, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, does anyone have any, would anyone oppose or any abstentions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion is unanimously approved. Thank you, Keith. You have a, let's see, any other activities, Keith?
Just an update that we did complete a second meeting roundtable discussion around with the America Job Centers. And thank you to Vice Chair Dizon with helping to facilitate that. A report and outcomes will be included in the Special Projects Committee report.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to item 9. Okay, one of the key responsibilities of the council is the development, modification, implementation of the state workforce plan. We were very busy with that earlier this year. We are now in the implementation phase of the process, and towards that end, there will be a workforce synergy summit, which will be held on December 9th. Is that still correct, Vanette?
Correct, Chair. And just so you know, if it's going to be Tui who's going to report on that.
Am I sure?
Go ahead.
Yeah, to ensure the longevity of this and to ensure the continuity of this work, we want to make sure that certain elements, definitive elements of the Workforce Development Council's work and composition are codified so that it's not sort of just left to the wind. That's the whole purpose of this motion. Hoping to reach out. The motion is to request the legislative action on certain elements of the state workforce unified plan, and Workforce Development Council to formally request that of the state legislator to enact key components of that plan. Again, you can read it, ensuring its long-term implementation and support. Being intentionally broad and vague with that language so as to work in concert with our legislative designees, Senator Dela Cruz and Representative Andrew Garrett, in hopes that we can come to consensus between the meeting of the minds to ensure that these key elements are implemented. And so that's
Thank you.
kind of
So
the
just to understand if I got that correct, so we're going to have this get together on December 9th, Workforce Synergy Summit, talk about the State Workforce Unified Plan, and then the action is to develop some recommendations and guidelines of
develop and define, guidelines, key elements that we want to make sure that are codified to ensure the longevity and sustained success of the work of this council and the work of the state unified plan that we've invested so much time and energy on. But also not wanting to paint ourselves into a corner by specifying exactly what it is here. And again, no action will be taken on any of this until it's brought before the executive council or executive committee and the broader council. I know that with our designees' help and guidance, that they'll be able to specify, especially with their extensive experience, especially on Senator Dela Cruz's side, to ensure that we don't, we cross every T, we dot every I, we make sure that we're not missing any of the potential pitfalls. We're not catching ourselves in a loophole, and making sure that we do everything in the proper channels and make sure that this work continues.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Matt?
Vinny.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Scanlon. If I can just provide some additional insight because of the example that was set by the energy sector. And I think you've heard me allude to this many times, where the energy sector back in 2018 galvanized, and they came up with an overarching plan, or goal, which is 100% renewable energy by 2045. So that actually got codified into law, and then the governor signed off on it. Because of the timing, our convening our Synergy Summit is on December 9th. I think the folks, especially from the legislative designee side, felt that it was important to have the board, request the legislature to make sure that all the elements of the state unified plan can be codified. And so if we wait until February, it would be too late. And that's why the verbiage is broad enough. So whatever the Synergy Summit, what they would emanate from that, can be then given to the legislators, to Representative Garrett and Senator De La Cruz, and then a bill could be developed that would support those elements.
Now, will the full board have the opportunity to?
They will be invited
Here.
to the Synergy Summit, Chair.
Okay. Okay, and to participate in those discussions?
Yeah, because the Synergy Summit is really not just us, but it's composed of all the other pertinent and relevant stakeholders. I think David has a question.
Go ahead.
Chair, I was just curious, so this proposal would be through introduction of Senator De La Cruz and Garrett, is that correct? Or is this, the governor's deadline would be November 25th for all bills, and so I didn't know how you would introduce
it
this.
will be their bill, David, not so, but it would, I guess, in discussions with their staff, they felt that it was important to have the council provide some, I guess, support to say that we would like for the elements of this unified plan to not just be, again, a loosey-goosey, policy event, but it really needs to be codified in. So especially if we would like to set an overarching goal, and that is really where we're at right now. We're trying to map out what would be a unified goal for all of the workforce development partners to rally around, so that then, just like how the energy sector did, whatever that goal is gets codified. But again, at this juncture, we don't even have, we want to defer to the Synergy Summit to come up with that. So this is really in anticipation of that, but because we can't do it in February, we're doing it broadly for this November meeting, just to strengthen the intention, so that the board will be in a good place to be collaborating with our designees on a possible bill that would codify the elements of the unified plan. Does that make sense?
But I can also throw this out there. The Synergy Summit is a rather poignant term to use. It's so that we could be working in synergy with all parties involved, from governance and oversight to the folks that are on the ground doing the tough work, to ensure that we're all paddling in the same direction and we're all paddling in rhythm, and to make sure that it's not something that is spoken about, like in close quarters, like in here, that someone may see later and then jump on board and they may jump on board with it, or they may have different opinions. Not something that is whispered about in back rooms, but something that we are all, that is solid and concrete, that we can all look to as a North Star to continue moving forward. I think that's the purpose of this.
Yeah, I agree. You know, workforce development is such a popular buzzword but it involves so many different stakeholders. So I think this is a good initiative, at least to get everyone's input together.
Well, I just wanted to share, Chair, it's interesting you brought up the aspirational goal of the energy goals. I was a sustainable transportation coordinator for DOT. And, with the upcoming administration, I foresee a lot of changes, especially in Waioa. So, one thing good about the plan is it's flexible. Once you codify things, and you put in legislation, then we're not as flexible. We got to go back to the legislature to change these things because we don't want to jeopardize any federal funding that would come to us because we don't have, we don't have that flexibility. I mean, I experienced this with the National Highway Safety Transportation Board when the policy changed at a time when the legislature wanted to codify Vision Zero, zero deaths on our highways. And it was like, I was scrambling, and that's the only thing. It might just turn out to be a lot of spinning our wheels with our head on. So maybe, hopefully, during the synergy, that part of the topic might be discussed. That if we have some inkling of what the administration's thinking, because I see a big change coming.
Indeed, indeed, and especially like no one feels it stronger than the labor movement and organized labor of what the ramifications of the recent election are. But I do think that's one of the very important reasons to do this in concert with our legislative designees, is so that when we work in concert, we are ensuring that not only it is the boots on the ground experience of what we're going through right here, but also the legislative experience of someone as knowledgeable as those two, to make sure that we're working together to ensure flexibility, but to also ensure a guided, concrete direction that we can at least move towards. We have targets to aim for instead of firing at anything that's around us. I think that's the whole purpose of we're moving in synergy and in a cohesive fashion with our legislative designates.
But so
you.
noted, David, and we'll be mindful of that. We can raise it during the Synergy Summit. But I think there is an opportunity to coalesce about something that we all can share that is not necessarily, it's forever green and does not necessarily be pegged on one particular policy, right? So I think I would like to, to have faith in the folks, the voices in the room, to be able to come up with that aspirational goal.
Any other comments, questions for discussion? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion on this matter, requesting legislative action on the elements of the State Workforce Unified Plan. We'll take this to the full board for vote on its next meeting. I think it's later this month, November 21st.
Luis Scanlon, so moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Keith Mello.
Thank you, Keith. Any abstentions or
Chair,
anyone wishing to vote no?
Chair David Rodriguez, I think I'll abstain at this point until I understand more about.
Oh, David, you're not
bill.
actually part of the executive committee, so.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Thank you for your comments, though,
Thank
David.
you.
Appreciate it. I understand your concerns, though. All right, we'll go. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, the motion passes. Okay, Bennett, you're up again.
I know. You
Look
are
at-
going to be so
popular
tired of me
person
by the
today.
end of this. Gonna give me a quota of how much time. Okay, so are you seeing the the blue PowerPoint?
Yep, good check.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go over this quickly because for many of you who are part of the various committees, you've heard this. But I did want to share with you that we had a very productive National Governors Association winter convening, which happened just very recently, October 30 to November 2nd. We actually had more participants this year with New York and Massachusetts, I think, joining for the first time. I have a long laundry list of things to do that I'll be working on and maybe sharing with some of the committees. I think the value of meeting with the other and networking with the other executive directors or senior policy advisor is really to learn from them. And certainly there were so many aha moments, too many to mention, that would allow us hopefully to improve and allow us to be able to learn from their other experiences. As mentioned, December 9, please, if you don't have it on your calendar, make a point to be there. It's only 50 people who can be accommodated at the foreign trade zone. So the first 50 to, signify their attendance is who we're going to bring on. We are still continuing to transition. The WDC is an attached agency. It's a laborious process, but I think very effective, where we go over the roles and responsibilities. It's the effort is being led by the deputy director. And again, it's very productive, but a little long. But at this end of the day, I think what is going to come out of this is a memorandum of understanding, and there's going to be no ambiguity or less ambiguity as to who is supposed to be fulfilling what functions. We're in the process of doing personal recruitment. It cannot come any sooner. Unfortunately, there are some, steps that we have to take, but enough said about that. I'm really happy and very, thrilled about the committees that are, being very diligent. Each of the committees have gone through a roundtable discussion. It's really a pulse check to make sure that our committees continue to be relevant. We're not just meeting for the sake of meeting, that truly at the end of the day, we are moving the needle. So I'm very grateful to our committee chairs for all the work that they do to ensure that the WIOA objectives are met. We are also starting we've already started the transportation sector partnerships, and we've convened at least 4 times. I think there's great momentum on this, and there's more and more people who are interested. So more updates to come. As you know, September was Workforce Development Month. I'm not going to go belabor the point, but we had a good Future of Work conference. Hopefully this month or next month, we're going to complete the funding document that we've been working on with the Hawaii Workforce Funders Collaborative, where we're doing a survey of the various local entities who are receiving workforce funds to be able to identify the funding gaps. We are continuing to work on a long-term care workforce task force with Senator Moriwaki, and that needs to be sent to the legislature. I'm not in charge of that. It's going to be another person. So, but we will be weighing in and providing some insight. And as you know, if you have not done so, we would love to have you continue to engage in the training academy or WIOA training academy for board members. They're only most of them are only an hour long. So hopefully that, as you learn more about WIOA, you have a better understanding, you're in a better place to be able to make sound decisions on good policies. We're also hoping to organize a U.S. Economic Trends Seminar with NGA sometime next year. So our focus, I think, as you can see, it's continuing on the efforts that we've been making the last year, whether it be strengthening the board committee, strengthening the local boards, focusing on American Job Centers. But I haven't sent this out yet, but I've will, but we had to look at our calendars, and the board retreat will be on January 16. That's, I think, a couple of days before the long weekend. So hopefully people will be able to attend that. And unless you have any questions, Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for Bennett and her report? Okay, as Bennett mentioned, there's some upcoming board meeting dates, both the full board and the executive committee. That's on page 75 of the packet. All right, moving on. This time, the public is welcome to make any comments or announce anything. Please be advised that in compliance with the Sunshine Law, the committee cannot discuss or act on issues which were not included in this meeting's agenda, but issues raised during this period may be included in a future agenda for the committee's consideration. Do we have any comments from the public? David Rodriguez, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to remind you, I know you're working with Representative Garrett and Senator Dela Cruz, but you're also the governor's board. And so whatever you folks do, it should have the governor's vision. And so I hope you work with the governor too. Thank you.
Yes, I think that's absolutely important to remember. And I think we intend to work closely with the governor's office. And I think there's a new Blake Oshiro has been succeeded by Will Kane.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. The next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, January 22nd. There's a couple of meetings before that for the full board, November 21st, and then the Synergy Summit as mentioned. And that's about it. So if there's no further comments or questions, I'd like to go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 2:55 this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Mahalo.